Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, the host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. Before I get into today's show, just want to take a moment to invite all you dads who are listening right now. If you're ready to start taking action on reclaiming your health and fitness and becoming better fathers and better men, I invite you to join our online community. The best way to do that right now is to apply to our free private Facebook group. You can find that at fitdadnation.com/community. So today, I want to talk about something that's not particularly exciting and it's not sexy at all, but it's vitally important, and that's the topic of sleep. So I'm going to share a few things about my own story here. I've struggled with sleep for a long time. I'll talk a little bit about why it's so important that we get enough quality sleep and why we are not getting enough sleep. So to start off, I had my first apartment when I was 19 years old. I was up in New Hampshire. I moved out of my house for the first time. I was 19 and got this shitty apartment right across the street from a cemetery. It was this dump. I was up on the second floor. The carpet was like a 1/4 inch thick. It was maybe 500 square feet, but hey, it's my first apartment, so it was pretty cool. So I lived there for, I think, 2 years. Sometime in the second year, my first roommate had moved out because basically I was a terrible roommate. And so I was living alone, and one Saturday morning, I'm in bed alone, sleeping, probably 10 o'clock in the morning, and I hear this boom. And I was like, what the fuck was that? I wake up, kind of sit up in bed, and next thing you know, my bedroom door comes flying open, and there's a dude standing there in a leather jacket just staring at me. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? So he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, and he turns around and leaves. And so I'm like, man, that guy could have just easily just killed me. So I get up, he's long gone. I call the cops, of course, and my front door, so I was inside of a secured building, so he had somehow gotten into the front door and then came up the stairs. I had a deadbolt on my door, but he kicked it right in. So shit, broke my door right off the hinges. So no idea what he wanted. Maybe he was looking for somebody. I don't know, but nothing happened. But anyway, that was the start of a very long period where I couldn't sleep very well. Obviously, you can imagine, that's playing in the back of your head. Someone could easily get into your place. So fast forward 15 years, I'm still a very light sleeper. So now we're in my mid-30s. Still a very light sleeper. Every little thing, noise in the night wakes me up. Then that's when I started having kids. So my first daughter was 6 weeks early. Not a good sleeper at all. I mean, at all. Colicky. Just looking back, I don't even know how I survived with the lack of sleep that I got. I know that's normal for most new dads, right? You don't expect to get a ton of sleep. That's normal. But she did not like sleeping. So for the first year, we would alternate taking care of the baby. Then when she got a little bit older, and we got her into a really bad sleep routine, and it was our own fault, where it would just take hours to put her to bed, and then she would get up multiple times crying. And so broken sleep, and this was at a time when I was working a full-time 9-to-5 job, and I was getting up at 4:45 a.m. to go train a couple of clients that were about 45 minutes away. So I'd get up really early, drive down the highway, train my clients, turn around, come back in traffic, and then go sit at my desk job. So, I was getting up really early, but I wasn't getting hardly any sleep. And this went on for a long time. And when she became a toddler, it was worse because now she was actually getting out of bed and coming over, and I was closest to the door, and she would come to my side of the bed every night, and it was dark, and I'd see this little shadow in my face. And, obviously it scares the hell out of you when you see this little face staring at you from 3 inches away in the dark. And so I just learned to be even more of a light sleeper. So a little anything, rain, thunder in the middle of the night, like anything hitting the side of the house, a dog barking, a car alarm, any little noise, a creak in the house, I would wake up. And so, this went on. Actually, to be quite honest, this is still going on. I'm 47 years old. I still don't sleep well. And I haven't even slept through the night probably in 10 years, at least 10 years, for a number of reasons. So, maybe I'll get into that after. But anyway, so the point is my sleep has sucked for a long, long time. And the more research I do about this, the more I realize that it's causing some problems for me. And this isn't something that's just a problem for a few people. This is tens of millions of people suffer from sleep deprivation or insomnia or some sleep apnea, sleep problems, and so it's causing issues. I mean, significant health issues. So we're talking about things not just like, I'm tired when I wake up. It's like poor sleeping habits, lack of sleep. I mean, that's the catalyst for some serious problems like diabetes, cancer, obesity, depression, Alzheimer's, memory loss, big illnesses. And I've actually seen studies that have shown that being sleep deprived can make you as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic, which it directly translates to faster aging, storing excess body fat. So getting more sleep and quality sleep is monumentally important for us. And, I would say that not only a good rule of thumb, but what I've read, according to the NIH, National Institute of Health, they recommend a sleep time, which is kind of generic, adults over 18, 7 to 8 hours, right? And so that can vary, of course, depending on the person. You may say, I don't need that much sleep, or I don't have enough time to sleep that much, which is the most common excuse I hear. And I'll say what I always say to everybody when they tell me that same thing for exercise. I don't have enough time to exercise. I'm so busy. And I say, well, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of priority. You're just not placing a priority on sleeping. And it's just like with exercise, right? I don't have time to train. Of course you do. Everybody has the time in the day to train. It's just not on top of your list, I'm not saying that's wrong or right. I'm just saying that's just not a priority. But my point with this show is you need to make it a priority. Absolutely. So 6 months ago or so, I read this book called Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. He had some pretty good insights on this whole sleep topic, and I've actually been trying to get him on the podcast as a guest. And it's actually a pretty good book, and I'll put the link to the book in the show notes. But so I want to talk a little bit about why, and again, this isn't anything new. This isn't anything particularly exciting, but it's something that needs to be heard over and over and over because we're not sleeping. I mean, we're not sleeping. We all know, we need to exercise more. Oh, sure. We need to stop eating so much shitty foods. Oh, yeah, of course. We need to move more. Okay, great. And we need to sleep more. Yep, got it. Right. But we're not doing those things. So this is just a reminder that you need to. So, when we're sleeping, we know that's when we're in an anabolic state. We're repairing our muscles. We're regrowing cells. Everything in our body is, for lack of a better term, healing, repairing. We already know this, right? Our muscles grow when we're sleeping, right? We train hard. We break down our muscles. We tear the muscle fibers. They regrow when we're sleeping, not when we're awake, right? It's going to help with our immune systems and our metabolisms and our energy and our brain function, and it balances our hormones. There's so many things that are involved in sleeping, getting quality sleep. So I had read this article. It was from the Canadian Medical Association Journal, and it basically showed that a sleep deprivation, I'm not talking about, you're sleeping 2 hours, 3 hours a night. Sleep deprivation can be something as little as getting, a half an hour less sleep, an hour less sleep than you need, right? It's directly related to an inability to lose weight. And a couple of key points: lack of sufficient sleep may compromise the efficiency of common weight loss interventions like diets. Shifting from a shorter sleep pattern to a healthier, longer sleep pattern is associated with a decrease in fat gain. And it's just a lack of enough sleep over time is contributes significantly to obesity. So we, it's clear. Obviously, you can just Google this anywhere. There's a million studies. There's a million articles on this stuff. It's just at this point we know that it's directly related to weight loss, fat loss, obesity, right? And that's one of the main things. It's not the only thing that we talk about here, but being a fitness related show, we're talking about this. So if your goal is to lose fat, right, to gain lean muscle, we want to get fit, and we know that as dads, especially in our 30s and 40s, it's harder and harder to do that. A lack of sleep is going to really mess with that. So here's a couple things that you can do. And so I've experimented with lots of different things, including taking Ambien, which was a kind of a bizarre experience. I prefer not to take drugs if I had to. I've had Tylenol PM. I've tried melatonin. I've tried warm milk. I've tried hot tea. What really has worked for me though is first having a very cool environment. So that's like the big thing for me, and I don't know, it's probably the same for a lot of you. Being in a hot or a humid environment just sucks. It sucks for sleep. You're sticking to your sheets and you're hot and you're kicking them off and you're uncomfortable, right? We keep our house at 67 degrees, so it's a little more expensive on the energy side, but it's worth it because it's that cool air that is really conducive to a better sleep. So I keep it at 67. We bought blackout shades, these cheap paper ones. I mean, they're like $10 a piece. We actually tape. You just tape them. They tape to windows. Put those up, and they block most of the light. I mean, the body can actually detect traces of light while you're sleeping, which can cause disruptions and actually can wake you up. And so, if you can, the more you can block out, the better. And so I do that, and I'll be honest, I haven't been great. I have an online business, so it's much harder for me to unplug from social. I tend to be on my phone later at night, which does affect it for sure. And it's been shown time and time again that having the screen time, having those blue lights, they call them, from our phones and tablets and TVs and computers and all that stuff, they trigger the release of a hormone, catabolic hormone, cortisol. So one of the main things you can do, and I suggest this as well, is just power down, right? Kill your devices at least an hour beforehand. You can use night shift if you have an Apple product. I actually use that now, which is just one setting in the iPhone where you can just, it kind of puts this like reddish tint on your phone, takes away that blue light. So you can do that if you have to be on your phone for whatever reason. And you can also use apps. There's a couple like Twilight, Iris, or Flux that will help kill that blue light also. Or you could just do, what we used to do before all this cell phone and technology nonsense was actually just read a book. Actually, I have a stack probably of 8 books in my drawer next to my bed that I cycle through. And that's a great way to get tired, especially if you are reading something that's not like super engaging. And I tend to read all nonfiction, so it's not like super exciting. So within 30 minutes, usually 45 minutes, I'm ready to knock out. So get rid of those screens. Establish a consistent bedtime and wake time. That's it's actually a lot more important than I would have thought. And I hate working on a schedule like that, to be honest with you. It's just, I don't enjoy it. I like the idea of being able to stay up anytime I want to, and if I'm in the middle of something or working or whatever. But it's been shown that it will improve your sleep if you can set a consistent sleep time or close to it. And definitely a wake time. You have certainly control over that. We can't always control what time we fall asleep, especially for somebody like me who I can't just lay my head on the pillow and fall asleep, right? It just doesn't work like that for me. It never has. So, but at least I can control what time I wake up. So if you have that crazy, one day it's 6 a.m., one day it's 8 a.m., one day it's 10 a.m., that's going to cause some issues. Another big one, caffeine. I love caffeine. Truth be told, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life, never. But I drink a shitload of caffeine through pre-workouts, and I've had some serious issues with energy drink addictions, like Red Bull. I had a Red Bull addiction. It was, God, at least 10 years. I would have 2 a day at least. And then I got onto Monster Zeros, which, they say, oh, you have no calories and no sugar, but all the artificial bullshit in there. And the caffeine certainly isn't good for us. And so I was drinking a couple of those a day. So the kind of the idea here is, if you're going to drink caffeine, that's fine. There's actually nothing wrong with caffeine at all. It's actually going to be beneficial for a few reasons, but the general consensus from what I've read and from what I understand, kill it, 5 hours or so, maybe 6 hours before you plan on going to sleep. Okay. That way, obviously we know caffeine is a stimulant. I also use fans. So some people are fans of white noise. I don't know how people sleep with no noise at all. Like a quiet house, like my grandmother's house when I was growing up was not only probably the darkest room I've ever been in my life. I felt like I was like at the bottom of the ocean. There wasn't a trace of light anywhere in that upstairs area where I slept. I mean, hand in front of your face, pitch black. It was also incredibly quiet. So when I was a kid, that wasn't really an issue, but after my episode when I was older, that's when it started to go downhill for me. But I have found that, there's so many noises out there. I mean, just always something going on, unless you live out in the middle of nowhere. But I use fans. We actually have 2 fans, these like Vornado fans that are super loud, one on either side of the bed, and that drowns out pretty much everything. I mean, at this point, someone could probably kick down my door. I wouldn't even hear it because the fans are so loud, but it drowns out all the other noise. And we live in townhouses, rows and rows of townhouses, and there's constantly noise. So that's a big help. So that's another big one that I swear by. I mean, when we travel, a fair amount. We'll go to hotels, and I don't really like traveling, but when I do, I have to have my fan. So I look like a freaking idiot carrying this huge ass fan into a hotel, but I do it anyway because the fans, like the fans they have in the rooms, you barely hear them, and the hotels are super loud anyway, so people slamming doors and shit. So anyway, that's another big one. Okay, a couple of other ones. Getting more sunlight, right? I'm not worried about skin cancer. I'm worried about getting enough vitamin D and worried about the production of melatonin. Obviously, we know that's a natural hormone that helps us sleep. People sell it, we buy it, take it as a supplement. I would say that's probably not necessary unless you just can't get enough sunlight. And we're talking, 20 minutes a day is probably just fine of direct sunlight on large areas of your body, your face, your chest, if you can. I get outside every day for at least a half an hour to walk and get some fresh air and some sun for that reason. And certainly it does help. Okay. This is kind of interesting one too, is, I have some notes here that I was reading on because I was writing a little bit of an article on this, and, people, you hear this a lot. Don't eat before bed. You're going to get fat. You're going to store whatever you eat right before bed as fat, which has now been proven to be incorrect, right? That's not important. So if you need 2,000 calories a day to lose weight, and you're eating 1,800, but you're eating 600 of those before bed, you're still going to be in that calorie deficit, which is still going to be putting you where you need to be to lose weight. It's not just going to be stored there. Yes, you're less active at night, but at the end of the day, the bigger point is you're still in that deficit. But what is happening is if you're eating 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed, especially if you're eating carbohydrates where you can get, you're going to get a blood sugar spike, the resulting drop. So, when you get a spike in blood sugar, it's got to drop at some point. We've all heard, like eating candy bars or Red Bulls or whatever it is, you get that super high spike, you feel great for about 20 minutes and then you crash, right? That's when that sugar comes down, that blood sugar level. So when this happens when you're asleep, it can disturb the sleep that you're going, if you're in the middle of your sleep pattern, it can disturb that and even cause you to wake up and cause problems for you falling back asleep. And that sucks. So if you need to eat, if you're really hungry, and going to bed starving sucks, have something that's high in protein. Just have a high protein snack. Okay, it's much more likely that people are going to grab something like pretzels or popcorn or chips, something that has a lot of carbs, because we crave that, right? But don't. Do your best to avoid that and have something that's a high protein snack instead. Booze is a big one. I'm not going to win any friends saying this, but drinking those beers will certainly help you fall asleep faster. It makes you tired, right? But the downside is that once you're asleep, it messes with your REM cycle, your rapid eye movement sleep cycle, which is the deep sleep where your body and your mind really regenerates the most. And so that's directly affected by alcohol, which can cause problems, especially if you drink every night. I'm not saying you're an alcoholic, but if you drink every night, casually even, that can mess with your REM sleep, which can lead to struggles like I mentioned before, and specifically with your body's ability to store fat or lose fat. And calming your mind before bed also is something that's pretty important. So we all have a million things going on. We're busy dads. We've got 100 things going through our minds. Me as a business owner, same thing, right? I'm just constantly going a million miles an hour in my head. It's very hard for me, probably like you, to turn it all off just on a click. You can't just get into bed. Some of you can, you lucky bastards, but for a lot of us, we can't. I just never understood how people can just literally go into bed, hit the pillow, and within 30 seconds or less, they're snoring and sleeping. I'm very envious of that. I've never in my life been able to do that, but it happens. But for a lot of us, we just can't. We can't turn it off. So being able to turn off that internal chatter is extremely important. I personally really struggle with this because I don't enjoy meditation or trying to do breathing techniques. I haven't really invested enough time into trying to make it work for myself because I just don't like the idea of it. But there's no doubt about it. It's still very beneficial. It's out there. The facts are out there. It is very beneficial. I know a ton of people that swear by it. I know a ton of people that meditate, and it works wonders. For me personally, just not a fan, but give it a try anyway. It could be for you. So, there's a couple of apps like Headspace or Calm that can help you with that. Actually, my girlfriend, she uses it every night. She uses Headspace, I think it is, and she loves it. It's just calming. I'd rather listen to Slayer, before bed, and I don't know if it would affect me, but I just sitting listening to wind chimes and calm, boring voices would probably drive me crazy. That's just me. But for you, give it a try. It's certainly worth it. There's no doubt about it. So, last things that I'm going to say here is, and I want to be clear too here, is there are hundreds. I gave you, 10 ideas to help you sleep better. There are probably 100 ideas, including, HIIT training. And there's so many things out there. And I didn't even talk about supplementation. I think if you cover these basics here first and you're still struggling, then you can start looking at some supplementation. But for the most part, I don't personally believe it's necessary. If you can cover all of these just basics, and a lot of us aren't. Just like with exercise, if you're not covering the very basics of proper health and fitness, stop looking at supplements. It drives me crazy. You're not gonna erase a bad diet or your lack of quality training or the stress in your life by taking any supplement. It's just not going to happen. So get all those bases covered first, then look to supplementation. So I've read that we get our most significant hormonal benefits during sleep during the hours of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that's another one reason why setting a consistent bedtime, if you can set it, so you can be asleep somewhere around that time, maybe a little bit earlier, that would be great. It's not realistic for a lot of us, of course, but it's possible. But if you can be asleep by that time and experience those benefits, I think that would be a benefit. I've read a little bit about this, and so all of this makes perfect sense to me. I've done some reading. I've seen some of these reviews. I've seen some research here. And like I said, this isn't going to blow the cover off Time magazine with what I'm telling you, but just listen to what I'm saying. Try a few of these simple things, even integrating one of these things into your life that you're not doing. And if I had to pick one or two, I would say cool off your house. I know a lot of you cheap motherfuckers that don't want to pay to keep your house cool. I see it all the time. I'm like, why is your house so fucking hot? Well, it's really expensive to keep it so cool. That's why I keep it at 74. I'm like, what? 74 degrees in here. I'm sweating my balls off. I mean, turn it down. So anyway, bite the bullet, spend a few bucks, keep it cooler. It doesn't have to be where we're at, like 67, 66, 70, 69 is fine. Keep it cool. That's number one. Number two, get blackout shades. Order them online, Amazon Prime, or I think we got ours once at Walmart. You know, like I said, $10. Phenomenal investment. It's helped, actually. It's probably been the biggest thing for us, or for me anyway, when it comes to my length of sleep and quality of sleep. So anyway, that's it, guys. You know, I didn't talk about the obvious things, like don't drink half a gallon of water before you go to bed because you're going to be up pissing all night, right? And just use your head, right? So these are some basic things, guys. Seriously, I'm going to put a couple of links here in the show notes, and hopefully some of these tips help you. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.